Hi, I'm Zach from Garden Theory. Today we're going to be talking about common problems that I see in landscapes and how you can find solutions to those problems. So the first problem we're going to be talking about is improper spacing of trees and shrubs. Now, usually the problem with these is that they're spaced too close together or too close to the foundation of your home. Especially with trees, a lot of time developers can put trees way too close to your foundation of your home, typically on the corners where they're trying to make something that looks nice on the corner of your home, but it's way too close. And in 10 to 15 years, the tree has gone too big, and it's something that's a problem where you have to trim it to keep it off your house. And I've seen this at multiple houses over the course of 2 years as I was working as a landscaper. We would have to trim trees off of houses all the time. So it's a common problem that I've seen. And that's a tough one to solve if the tree is already mature. However, I would recommend if you just moved into a house and the tree's still young, you could try to transplant the tree. Or if it's too big, if it's so much of a reoccurring problem, it could be cause of removing the tree and replanting a new one at a proper spacing. Kind of depends on the site. But that's one of the first things you want to look for when you're designing. And most of your long-term problems can be resolved at the beginning. That's where most of the mistakes occur. That's where most of the long-term effects of everything takes place. It's from improper planning and design at the beginning stages. So that's something I stress a lot on this channel. And we've done a few videos talking about landscape design and how you can design your landscape for the long term. We don't want to design it for 1 year from now. We want to make sure that it looks good 20 years from now. So if you want to watch that video about landscape design, I'll have it linked above my head, as well as a full playlist of different landscape design videos at the end of this video. So our second problem we'll talk about is how do you plant things in the shade? This is a very common one, especially as your trees on your site mature. The lighting conditions will change, and I've seen in a lot of places, if you have lawn under your trees, the lawn will start to die out, and it may be kind of wet and muddy. How do we plant and have a nice landscape in those spaces? So planting in the shade can be pretty challenging since your available plants that like those conditions are going to be that will narrow your list quite a bit. But I would recommend some native plants that like the shade, like golden ragwort. You can also plant a variety of native hydrangeas, like oak leaf hydrangea does fairly well in the shade. Typically, overall, you're going to have less flowers from your plants in the shade. But again, it will depend a lot on your site conditions, depending if it's wet or dry, and how much moisture it receives. Can change a lot with the type of plants that I would recommend. But generally speaking, you want to get your lawn away from those shady areas. Your lawn's always going to look the best where it can get enough sunlight. Now, some lawn species can take some shade, like fescue is okay in the shade sometimes. But if it's really deep shade, even that can start to thin out a little bit. But I would just generally speaking, I would recommend removing that lawn, getting a defined landscape bed in those microclimates that exist, and to be able to put plants that are going to work well in those microclimates. And lastly, I'm going to be talking a little bit about lawn. We mentioned this in one of our other clips, but removing the lawn away from the edges of your house and different fences and any kind of structures in general is going to help save you time. Essentially, we're trying to remove all the areas that your mower can't naturally reach. And we want to reduce our lawn into a more practical and functional space. We don't necessarily need to be covering every inch of our landscapes and lawn. It's one of the most high maintenance plants that we take care of. And having your lawn space in a reduced and functional space that you actually use is going to be a lot better for you, and you can have more space for things like gardens and landscape beds. So that being my number one tip, try to make your lawn as simple to take care of as you can. Overall, I would say simple shapes, keep it away from the walls and edges. Um, and that way you can have a more practical central space for your lawn, and have it more as a functional feature instead of just what everyone else has. So those were my three tips and advice for three common landscape problems that I thought it would be good to go over in this clip. And if you like the content on this video, please subscribe and comment down any of your landscape problems, and I'll review them in a future Q&A episode. So please, I would love to hear from you, and I'll respond to you the best way I can. And if you like to continue to learn on this channel, please subscribe, and thank you for watching Garden Theory.